Hi, I'm Sol, and welcome to Why Do We Sex, a podcast about sexuality, relationships, and intimacy. Every episode will explore a question you've always wanted to ask yourself. And being a sexologist, I actually might answer it. Today is our very first episode, so I'll share a bit about who I am, why I'm here, and what sexology actually is. Welcome everyone, and hopefully you're gonna learn why do we sex. So let's dive right into it with who I am and why I really wanted this podcast to exist. Let's start with some backstory and personal story. My name is Sol, full name Solène. I'm French Canadian, currently living in Australia. And I'm a sexologist. I studied sexology at university in Montreal around 10 years ago already. And so I've been practicing in different fields, but now I'm back in sexology and it just feels so good. But before that, how did I find sexology? Why did I start to study sexology? It was never something that I dreamed about. It wasn't like at 7 I was like, I want to become a sexologist, Actually, I wanted to be a primary teacher. And then when I thought about it, I was like, oh my God, I cannot see myself saying the same things over and over again every year. So I went to see one of those, people that help you, like a job counselor. I don't know if it's like how you call them. Anyway, what he did was basically just give me a book with all the university programs. And one of the pages was sexology. I read about it and I was like, oh my God, actually, I could see myself studying it, because you can work with literally everyone, and sexuality has never really been a taboo for me and in my family, and I was always curious and fascinated about relationships and human behavior, so it just felt right to go into it. And with time and working with a lot of different people, I realized that, wow, sexuality and just relationship is something that people don't know about at all. And again, still to this day, even though, we're more open, it's still very difficult. And even to this day, when I tell people that I'm a sexologist, they're like, ugh, what is it? She said the word sex. Oh my God. And I guess that's where my idea of doing this podcast came from. So obviously I do have my business. I do have my online sexology clinic. I meet people, individuals, couples, and we're talking about different things, intimacy, sexuality, communication within the relationship, all those kind of stuff. And these are all important. And a lot of my clients, but a lot of people who I've worked with in the past, whether it be teenagers or adults, they're all asking the same questions. Or the same question, I should say, which is it normal that I do this? Is it normal to do this? And most of the time, the answer is yes. And I really want this podcast to kind of answer these questions and try to validate people by being respectful, and to just throw the shame away. Shame is such a thing that affects our sexuality and our relationships. And I just want to talk about it. And the other podcasts that I've listened to, if there are professionals, I feel like it's a bit boring and it's way too academic, and that's not me. Yes, of course I've been to uni, but I'm not much of an academic person. I'm more into the relational when I'm with the people, that's where I thrive. That's where I love it. Anyway, yeah, going back to what I was saying before, but like, yeah, the podcast I've been listening where it was professionals, it was too, again, just too serious. And I do understand that sexuality, and depending on what theme, it needs to be serious, right? But let's bring some fun into it, because learning is fun, sexuality is supposed to be fun, pleasurable. And there are other podcasts where the hosts have nothing to do in the sexology world, and some information that they're saying are not totally right, and it can really fuck up someone. You know, if you're a little bit vulnerable and you're listening to this, it can be really damaging for some people. So I'm like, could I do something that is like in the middle? So I do have my profession, I'm a sexologist, but I do think from the feedback I've been receiving from other people, I'm a people person. People kind of relate to me. I think that I'm light. And I don't want to throw myself a lot of flowers here, but yeah, anyway, that's mostly why I wanted to create this podcast. The goal is to maybe post once a month, because I have a lot more projects in mind. But yeah, like maybe once a month, and I really want you to get into it, ask questions, because it's the episodes I want to create them for you, based on your interests, based on your questions. And so I will really need you to either send me anonymous questions, or send me emails, or write a comment under this podcast. I would really appreciate it. So yeah, but like, what is sexology exactly? Well, I told you I'm not really of an academic, but what I can tell you from what I remember from my history classes about sexology is that, like, officially sexology appeared in the late 1900s, mid 20th century. I struggle. We're talking about people like Kraft Ebing, Havelock Ellis, Kinsey, Masters and Johnsons, that you might have heard of. And let me find my notes. Kinsey's research were in like the 1940s and 1950s. And he really challenged the idea that sexuality fit into neat categories, which it doesn't. And his work really showed that human sexual behavior exists on a spectrum. And it's a concept that still shapes how we understand orientation and desire today. And there's a movie, I think, about Kinsey's, which I haven't watched yet. And later, we're talking about figures like Masters and Johnsons that shifted the field toward physiology and sexual response. And they really brought like evidence-based understanding to anything around arousal, pleasure, and sexual functioning. So the orgasm, for example. So they really studied the sexual human response, which very, very interesting. We still use that model today, but other models have been created because we have a better understanding on how the human body works. But not just the body, as you know, the body is highly influenced by what's happening in our heads. So yeah, so sexology really started as a controversial field, but it is now a multidisciplinary science that just like recognizes sexuality as a core part of being human. And it is. Global health, within the global health, there's sexuality. And the focus areas today are, of course, sexual behavior, orientation, sexual identity, relationships, culture, consent, pleasure, emotional well-being. There's so many things we can talk about when it comes to sexology, and that's what I love. Okay, now let's clarify some roles. So, what's the difference between, let's say, social worker, psychologist, a sex or relationship coach, and a sexologist? Because sometimes people get those mixed up, and I think it's just so important to get the difference, I guess. So, let's start with a social worker. So, social workers, they focus on social systems, the support networks, advocacy, I struggle with that word, and access to resources. In sexual health context, they may work with trauma, family systems, marginalized communities, and like practical barriers affecting relationships, which as sexologists we can also do, but you'll see a bit more in depth a bit later. The psychologist will diagnose and treat mental health conditions, and they may conduct research. I mean, a lot of them will conduct research. When working with sexuality, psychologists will often address anxiety, depression, trauma, compulsive behaviors, or like relational distress from a clinical mental health perspective. Now, a sex or relationship coach, I guess it depends from like which coach. I feel like they might all have their specificities, but often it think like yeah often the coaches, they can help with like communication skills, intimacy goals, confidence, relationship satisfaction, without diagnosing or treating mental health disorders, which makes sense because that is an area that is only for psychologists. Now, you might ask, where does a sexologist fit? Why should I go see a sexologist then? Well, the sexologists, like, we are trained in the scientific study of sexuality. And it often includes education, counseling, research literacy, and a multidisciplinary understanding of sexual health. So it's not just about the act, but it's about the society, the psychology behind it, the sexual development, the laws in the society. What else? There's so many things. Like, sexologists may work in a clinical context. They may work as educators or in community settings. It really depends on their training and scope. For myself, I did work in the education space. I still do, I would say, because I give workshops and I love giving workshops. I love the energy of the groups. I worked in community settings as well. I worked in a private clinic and I own my private clinic as well. And I would say that my university background in sexology really trained me to do all of those things. So counseling, education, how to create programs. Like, I really like it. I really like all the possibilities that we can do. And like, what about my practice? What are my specialties, you might ask? Yes, my practice is rooted both in academic training, but also real world human experience. Like I told you earlier, I love human interactions. I'm really curious about how people talk to each other and how it affects their relationship to themselves, to others, and I guess to the world. So yes, I love everything that has to do with relationships and sexuality, of course. But right now, my focus areas include things like women's sexual health. I do love working with men as well. Relationship dynamics, emotional safety, sexual confidence, jealousy, identity exploration. I love that. I also, like, recently I've been asked for a contract to facilitate workshops about perimenopause and menopause, and I love discovering more and more about it, because of course it helps me in my profession, but I love just, yeah, helping people, helping women. I do love facilitating workshops for the community. The things I get from it is great, right? In my practice, I also participate as a guest speaker in panels and community discussions. Yeah, I just feel like sexual health belongs outside of therapy rooms. I think it's not fair. As a private practitioner, anyway, I feel like it's not fair to only have a clientele that can afford the sessions, because everyone in all aspects of the society have questions about sexuality and deserve to learn and to get the answers, um, to get their questions answered. That's the one. And so that's why, for me, providing workshops at a lower cost can definitely be a solution to do that and to provide sexology services to everyone. I don't believe that sex education is only for the rich. It's for everyone. And you might have noticed, but I really want my practice to be based on compassion, inclusivity, and a deep respect for the fact that everyone comes with their own story around sexuality and relationships. Like, there's no universal timeline, no correct desire, and no single way to love or connect. And again, I don't know everything, and that's what I love about working with people, because they teach me a lot about themselves and other ways to connect. And yeah, what do I want for the future of my practice? Of course, I've only had my practice for a year. There's so many things I want to do. So there is this podcast, there's the workshops, there's the panels, there's the therapy sessions as well. I'm currently working on a program for couples. I'm currently writing a book as well. So I want to do so many things because I want people to have access to this. So important. So important. But most of all, I really want to create a community, because as humans, we're not meant to be alone. And I do believe that talking and hearing about our challenges is so beneficial to, like, for us and for our general health. And community will also help destroy that shame. So again, I just want people to find a place, a safe place, where they can ask questions without being judged, right? And to feel validated by other people. Like, that's just, yeah, I guess that's just really important for me. I do not want to add more noise. I really want to create something more grounded, more thoughtful, and something real. I really want to create a space where honesty matters more than perfection. And I know I'm going to struggle with that too. I do like to deliver good stuff, perfect stuff, because that's, in my eyes, that's what performs well. But like, fuck performing. Performing destroys so many parts of our lives and relationship and our sexuality as well. So yeah, I think this is gonna be a work for myself too. But again, my vision is really to build a digital platform that feels human. I think at the end of the day, that's what I want to create. Not something too pretentious and something that you don't relate to. And I'm not saying you're going to relate to everything. Of course you won't. Because, again, we're all different. But just, yeah, a space where you feel like, yeah, that's me. I recognize myself in this. And I really want to create a place where sexuality and relationships are discussed with nuance, evidence, and warmth. Very important. And yeah, this practice will evolve because I am evolving too. I'm committed to listening, learning, and adjusting as research grows and as communities speak as well. So depending on what you're going to tell me, the feedback you're going to bring to me, I really want to adjust. And I do, as I said, I do not want to pretend I have all the answers. I want to ask better questions, but for that, I really need you, okay? And this part matters to me a lot. So anyway, if what I'm saying resonated with you in any shape or form, please subscribe, share, and reach out, ask questions. You can go on my website, www.soulsexology.com. Sexology is Sxxology, and soul, SOL. So, hopefully, I get better at this. Give me ideas about what you want me to talk about. And yeah, I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much.